West, the old school patriot. And I just want to thank you once again for taking the time out of your busy evening schedules to join us here on Facebook for our every 2 weeks Facebook Live event where we share some thoughts, perspectives, and insights with you. And then we answer some of your questions off the read board that pop up. You know, it's been a while since we talked, and of course it was before the election. And I just want to continue to always give thanks and honor and a shout out to our website administrator and our social media manager, Marie, out there in California, and to all the people out in California that are suffering from those wildfires. Our thoughts and prayers are with you. I mean, so many have lost so much, and you're at the center of our heart and the center of our prayers, each and every one of you. And for those that have lost their lives and those who have lost their loved ones, you know, you have our condolences as well. Want to continue to ask you to join our discussion group that we have here at theoldschoolpatriot.com, as well as be a part of our special operations team. You know, one of the things that I really try to do is to write pieces that will stir you to have deeper discussion. And that's one of the great things about our discussion group. Also want to remind you about the book. It's almost been 1 month now that it's been out. Hold Texas, Hold the Nation, Victory or Death. It's doing very well. You can get it out there on Amazon, who I guess everyone is upset with them now that they're moving their headquarters up to Crystal City, Virginia, and also into Queens, New York. But, you know, that's one of the things that the private sector does. And how funny it is that people are complaining about the tax breaks that they get. Remember all those commercials that New York's Governor Cuomo was running, talking about how they were luring businesses in and they were going to offer them tax breaks and things of that nature? I just don't understand. The progressive socialist left seems to not be able to get their message together. But let's talk about what has happened over the last week. You know, it was just last week, you know, some of us woke up and we were pretty satisfied. Others of us woke up, such as myself here in Dallas County, and all of a sudden realized that, man, I was behind enemy lines. And that's one of the things that we wrote the book, Hold Texas, Hold the Nation, Victory or Death about, because there's a demographic shift that is happening even here in the great state of Texas, the Lone Star State, that's leading to an ideological shift. You look at it, Dallas County, and Dallas County now is completely a blue county. There is no doubt, way, shape, or form about it. You know, I lost my state representative. There are many other state reps in the area that were lost. I lost my state senator, lost my U.S. representative, all Republicans, and the Dallas County District Attorney, Faith Johnson, who had done a phenomenal job, but she had an R after her name, and she lost as well. And there were several other instances of incredible I call it a bushwhacking. A lot of judges here in the state of Texas lost, and there were some other U.S. congresspersons that lost. I know down in Harris County, there was another bloodbath for the GOP. And what you're seeing happen here in the great state of Texas is that people are moving in and they're concentrating around the major urban centers and the population areas, such as Dallas and Dallas County, Austin and Travis County, El Paso County, San Antonio, Bexar County, and Houston, Harris County. And not only that, they're starting to spread outward into the suburban areas. And so what you see happening is, you know, a way of the future if we're not careful about it. We know that the progressive socialism that is exported out of California has caused a change in Nevada, which is based upon Clark County and Las Vegas. You see what has also happened in Arizona, where without a doubt, and we'll talk about recounting votes, but you know, Martha McSally lost a very tough race out there in Arizona. New Mexico, just the same. Steve Pierce, great guy, lost the gubernatorial race there in New Mexico. And they're having problems in Albuquerque. That, you know, it's all of a sudden a sanctuary city. And look at the crime that is increasing there in Albuquerque. I was just out there recently. And then you have Colorado. And we know what Colorado has faced. It used to be a very strong red state, and now it's a blue state, completely dominated by the politics of Denver and Boulder, Colorado, university town, of course. So we are seeing something that is this demographic of people that are fleeing from these failed blue states, these economically strapped blue states like California and Illinois, New York, New Jersey, and they're coming into very successful red states. You look at what is happening on the other side of the Mississippi River in Georgia and in Florida and even in Tennessee, where there are some challenges. But I think Taylor Swift, you really did Marsha Blackburn a favor by coming out and sticking your nose into that Senate race there. And congratulations to my former colleague, Marsha Blackburn, for winning that Senate race there. But without a doubt, I think one of the critical things we need to, study up and understand is, why do we see these red states be so successful? Why do they have all the great economic opportunities, the economic vibrancy that we understand and draws people to them? Because, I've told people so often, maybe there need to be some billboards up that say, "Welcome to Texas," but why are you here? When you go back and you look at what happened in the Texas statewide election, there's a very simple comparison that I make, and it brings out 2 points. Excuse me. The first point is that Governor Greg Abbott, very popular governor, won against Lupe Valdez. I think he had like 57, 58% at the end of the day. But when you look at another statewide race, which was the Senate race, which was the marquee that everyone was looking at and talking about, between Representative Robert O'Rourke, Patrick O'Rourke, I don't know, they came up with this Hispanic nickname. His nickname should be Bob. And then Senator Ted Cruz. Very interesting race, because when you had the governor winning with 57 to 58%, and then you had Senator Cruz just barely getting a little over 51%, there are 2 things that we have to understand. First of all, we saw a governor that's very popular, very well known. He has, weathered a lot of very tough situations and storms here, literal storms with the Hurricane Harvey, and he's done exceptionally well. He's shown leadership, and he's well respected. But then the exact same type of statewide race, the senatorial race, and you saw someone that did not have that same type of success at 57, 58%. One of the things without a doubt that happened, and I believe that this may be the last time you have straight ticket voting out here in the state of Texas, is that most of the Democrats voted straight ticket. I mean, you can go back and you look at this and you can ascertain it very simply. But many Republicans did not. And one of the key races where many Republicans here in the state of Texas did not vote straight ticket was in that Senate race. I know because I talked to some people that did not. They either skipped that race or they voted against the sitting senator. And that's very interesting, because I think that one of the things that we have to do going forward, we have to have those very vibrant, charismatic, conservative leaders. It's a new ball game. And when you think about what happened ever since that first presidential debate between Richard Nixon and John F. Kennedy, and you can go back and talk to all the analysts or read the reports and everything, people that were listening to that debate between Kennedy and Nixon on the radio believed that Nixon won it. But the folks that were watching it, the first televised presidential debate, they gave it to Kennedy, because it was all image driven. It was all visual. Many people talk about how Richard Nixon looked like he had the 5 o'clock shadow thing going on. But you saw this young, vibrant, good-looking fellow in John Fitzgerald Kennedy. And I think that's what the Republican Party has to come to understand. Frankly, I'm happy that you had 40 to 45 some odd members of the House GOP and some others on the Senate side that decided they were going to hang it up. Because it's much like a controlled burn. And sometimes you need that control burn so that you can get new growth. And I think it's very important that now that we have the GOP in the minority in the House of Representatives, they go back to the drawing board. They really do a hard look at, where did they go wrong? Well, I can tell you some things. They're not fiscally conservative anymore. I mean, when you are passing a $1.3 trillion omnibus spending bill, when you have record amount of revenues that are coming into the coffers of the government, but yet you're still running massive monthly deficits, that's not what we voted you for. When you say that you're going to do this with healthcare, but yet you don't come up with a plan and you seem somewhat lost, that was a big unforced error. And of course, the Democrats took advantage of it, because their big thing that they hammered on and hammered on and hammered on was healthcare. It's almost as if America has forgotten that all the problems that we see with healthcare, the rise in premiums, the fact that people can't go see their doctors, well, it was the Democrats' fault. But yet they were able to hang on to one little thing. And when you think about pre-existing conditions, I mean, we're not talking about a large percentage of the American people, but yet they made the whole issue of pre-existing conditions seem like this monumental, massive, thing that Republicans are going to take away from you. See, you have to give it to the progressive socialist left. They know that once you give someone an entitlement, it's really hard to try to peel that thing back, no matter how bad it is. It's really hard to do that. But they need to have a better messaging effect. And then the last thing I think that really hurt the Republicans is that, the immigration issue is preeminent. And they did not properly fund the border security system. You can call it a wall, whatever. I call it a border security system. It's an integrated system that we need to have down on our southern border. And they did not fund that properly. So now they see themselves as a minority. But if we don't get these young, charismatic conservative leaders to run in 2020, and I truly believe that the Democrats are going to overreach and overplay their hand. As a matter of fact, they're already having their first little internal fight. There's a letter that has been passed around by Democrats and how they want to have Steny Hoyer, they're supporting Steny Hoyer to be the Speaker of the House, and Nancy Pelosi is putting her finger in folks' chest saying, I'm going to be the Speaker of the House. So we'll see how that goes. And remember that a lot of these people that were running that were successful and won, they were talking about how, I'm not going to support Nancy Pelosi for the Speaker of the House. That's going to be their first vote, their first publicly recorded vote. And we'll see how they vote. And we'll see if they honor their commitments that they made to their constituents, or they're going to continue down a different path. But I think that those are the key things that has to happen for the GOP. We have to have determined, dedicated, resilient, charismatic leaders. Let's be very honest. This thing is about image. And we can win that image battle because we have already have the right and proper message. But we need to tighten that message up, and we need to stick to it. And we need to have everyone off the same sheet of music instead of running around and talking about this and talking about that. They need to be consistent, much the same as you saw the progressive socialist left. Now, everyone will say, well, they got the media on their side, what have you. But I don't care how much money you get, a bad message is a bad message. And speaking of money, who really is the party of the rich now? I mean, when you're throwing around, hundreds of millions of dollars, almost to the tune of $1 billion in a midterm election cycle, that tells me a lot. Now, I will tell you that one of the things about Representative Robert Francis O'Rourke, even in losing, he was successful. And why do I say he was successful? He was successful in showing the Democrat Party that maybe Texas is in play in 2020. That's why when I sat on a panel with local CBS 11, some of the Democrats there were talking about it's time for him to be on a presidential ticket. Because what he proved is that you could get close, even in the great state of Texas, a state that is successful because of constitutional conservative tax and regulatory policies, a state that respects the indomitable entrepreneurial spirit, a state that says, yes, you did build that. But it was a state that almost elected a person to be a senator that does not believe that you built it. A person that believes that we should have open borders, a person that believes that coming into the United States of America illegally should not be an offense. So we almost voted someone from this great state that doesn't even believe in the sovereignty of the United States of America, a person that believes in wealth redistribution. See, I believe that if we had the right type of image against the John F. Kennedy or whatever they're going to call him. And how funny is that everyone's talking about the Kennedys and his resemblance to them. He also had a little DUI issue. Kind of reminds me of a place called Chappaquiddick. But we have got to meet them on that aspect of political campaigning, to be able to meet them on the image side, because we can defeat them on the message side if we are dedicated to a constitutional conservative message. Now, let's talk about the other thing that is on everyone's mind and something that I know a whole lot about, and that's South Florida politics. It was 6 years ago, about this time, that I was going through some, very interesting developments. When you're ahead in a congressional reelection race by a couple thousand votes, and all of a sudden, the clock ticks around, it's 11:30 at night, 23:30 for us military types. And then when it gets on the other side of midnight, there's a 4,000 vote shift. And all of a sudden you're down 2,000 votes. And then you learn that there were precincts in a certain county, St. Lucie County, where the supervisor of elections, Gertrude Walker, They report 118% voter turnout, 103% voter turnout in some precincts. Now, I know that you can give more than 100% effort, but I didn't know that more than 100% of people could turn out to vote. And here we saw all of this, and we know that there were some fraudulent activities that went on. And the governor at the time was, well, Governor Rick Scott. He was informed of these things. He did nothing about it. And now, all of a sudden, 6 years later, because there was no action taken, there were no consequences, no ramifications, no accountability for nefarious actions when it comes to our electoral processes in South Florida. And it always centers, isn't it very funny, on 3 counties down in South Florida, 3 of the most Democrat counties in the state of Florida. Broward County with Brenda Snipes, Palm Beach County with Susan Booker, and St. Lucie County with Gertrude Walker. And you see it happening all over again. Except this time, it's happening to Governor Rick Scott, who is running for Senate re-election. Now, when you have recounts and you go and you start to look at and drill down on ballots, you can go through our history. Most of these recounts never change more than about 300 or 400 votes. You look at what has happened in the Senate election down in Florida. I mean, it's changed by tens of thousands of votes. And how does that happen? Well, call Norm Coleman, who ran for Senate, was a sitting senator up against Al Franken. And there's this thing called the margin of cheating. If you're within, 1.5% to 0 with the Progressive Socialist left, they're going to break out that playbook. And they've done that once again. Because we, for whatever reason, don't hold them accountable, these supervisors of election. Think about the fact, just 2 years ago in 2016, Brenda Snipes destroyed ballots. That's a felony offense. So why was there not an investigation? Why is Brenda Snipes still in position? Because as an incredible Marine First Sergeant once taught me, Jim Reifinger, he said, if you ever find yourself in a fair fight, it's all because your tactics suck. Let me repeat that again. If you ever find yourself in a fair fight, it's all because your tactics suck. And we continue to want to have a fair fight with the Progressive Socialist left, people that will do anything to attain power. And that's exactly what you see happening in Georgia and Florida. And they're going to continue to find ballots. As a matter of fact, I read in some blog, I couldn't verify it, but I read where there were ballots found in the Avis rental car at Fort Lauderdale Airport. They're going to pop up everywhere. As a matter of fact, I think I got some ballots out in the back of my Jeep Wrangler Rubicon. That's just how they roll. Now, we've got 2 years to fix this thing and understand that we're in a serious ideological battle. We got 2 years to hold Texas so that we can hold the nation. And just as William Barrett Travis wrote in that letter, there's not any opportunity for surrender or retreat. It has to be victory or death. And it's not death for us physically, but it is death for the United States of America. There's a fight coming. We're already partially in it, but in 2 years, it's going to come to a full head, and we got to be prepared for it. And here at theoldschoolpatriot.com, we're going to help you to be prepared, because we're going to make sure that you're squared away to get out there and articulate these issues and win this fight. Now, with that being said, let's go over here and see what y'all are talking about. Bill Petraglia, how you doing, Bill? What goes around comes around. They only made you stronger, Alan. Yes, I agree. God can close a door, but he opens up a better door. And as Friedrich Nietzsche once said, that which does not kill you only serves to make you stronger. But I will tell you that this does not have to happen. What we are seeing and witnessing down in South Florida could have been stopped 6 years ago. But when people on our side are more concerned about their own self-interest, eventually it bites them in the butt. It's called karma. All right. John Walker, Broward health scandals forever. No one does a thing, nothing. Well, John, that's one of the things. I mean, you even look at what happened with the Parkland shooting. All of the incredible mishaps and missteps and failures and shortcomings and lack of leadership from the Broward County Sheriff's Office with Scott Israel. Who's the governor? Rick Scott. What has Rick Scott done? Reference Scott Israel? Not a thing. That's what I'm talking about. Now, if that were reversed and it was a Republican sheriff and it was a Democrat governor, that sheriff would have been gone, I think, 2 days after the incident, along with the Broward Superintendent of Schools, Robert Runcie, who lied about that program that they put Nicholas Cruz in to try to cover up. Kelly Elizabeth, the caravan made it to the border. No, ma'am, it has not. I believe that they're somewhere between, I think 400 to 600 miles away. Some people are saying that they're veering over toward the Tijuana sector, which to me would make sense because, Governor Jerry Brown in California said, come on in, we'll give you driver's licenses. In San Francisco, they've said, we'll allow you to vote in our local elections. California said they're a sanctuary state. That's not happening here in Texas. So we'll see which way they go, which avenue they take, which penetration zone or which crosses sector they look to go into. But originally, folks were talking about the McAllen sector, which is here in Texas, but it seems that they're veering away. But remember, there are 3 to 4 of these caravans that are heading toward the United States of America. Linda Spear, Avis car rental friends with Gillum, older pics of them together. Okay. Scarlett Reed Kilgore, I agree. We need to start fighting. We do. And again, I'm sure there are lefties that are watching this Facebook Live. We're not talking about fighting you physically. The only ones that want to fight physically is the progressive socialist left. You have your thugs out there called Antifa. And how interesting it is that the Democrat Party, they're responsible for creating the first domestic terrorist organization here in the United States of America, the Ku Klux Klan. Those guys wore white, robes and hoods and masked faces. Now they have their second domestic terrorist organization called Antifa. They just wear black, but they're still hooded and they still have masks. Those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Ryan Miller, the fight has started, but the bloodshed will unfortunately come soon. Ryan, I pray not. I hope that is not the case. I know that, I've been reading some back channel things. One of the issues that the left wants to go after in the House of Representatives are the Second Amendment. And some people will say, well, they're not going to be able to take away our firearms, our weapons. No, but what they can do is they will try to infringe upon your ability to have a weapon. Look at what has happened out there in Seattle, where the City Council of Seattle came up with this incredibly insane weapons violence tax, where you have to pay an additional, a legal law-abiding person wanting to purchase a firearm has to pay an additional $25 or so just to get a firearm for this violence tax. And then the other thing is, they were charging people 5 cents for every round of ammunition that you buy. Now, who's to say they couldn't charge you 10 cents or 25 cents or even $1 for every piece of ammunition in that box that you buy? That's how they try to render your weapon into nothing but a battering ram. So be on the lookout for what these folks want to do. They're not going to talk about the mental health issue. That's what they're definitely not going to talk about. Let's see. Kelly Holthusen, Democrats will be our end. I don't want to say Democrats so much. Remember, I want to talk about the ideology. I want to talk about the relationship that these people see between us, the individual, and the government. And so that's why I call them progressive socialists, because they believe that the institution of government is preeminent over the individual. And that's not how this country was established. When you read the Declaration of Independence, you read and understand the Constitution. This is about individual sovereignty and not about collective subjugation. And coming back to the Second Amendment, always remember, folks, always remember that an armed individual is a citizen. An unarmed individual is a subject. Oh, and speaking of which, I just want to send a shout out to everyone up there in Chardon, Ohio, and the folks there at the Ohio Ordnance Works. I had the pleasure of being in Chardon, Ohio this past Sunday for a Veterans Day celebration. Just an incredible day, an incredible luncheon. to be there with 5 or 6 World War II veterans. And the folks up there in Ohio Ordnance Works, man, they're going to send me something. And when I get it, I'm going to show you guys. It's pretty sweet. All right. Let's see. Monica Hathaway, what can we, the people, do? We, the people, you must arm yourselves here first and foremost. And you must go out there and you must talk to your neighbors and talk to your friends and challenge them. Challenge them intellectually. And they start yelling and screaming, whatever, that's okay. You got to continue to try to challenge them, because we have to have an educated and informed electorate. We cannot continue to have an electorate that takes us down the path of Venezuela. We cannot continue to have people that just believe that, everything can be given to you, because you have folks that don't believe that you have the inalienable right to pursue your happiness. They believe that they themselves are the ones that can guarantee your happiness. And as a matter of fact, go and read Abraham Lincoln's little short quote about the difference between liberty and tyranny. He delivered that quote back in 1864 in Baltimore, Maryland at the Sanitary Fair. And he talked about how liberty is the ability for a person to be able to do with themselves and the product of their labor. But other people also believe that liberty means what they can do with other people and what they can do with the product of other people's labor. But Lincoln came to surmise that that is really the difference between liberty and tyranny. And that's why I talk about this incredible ideological delineation between individual sovereignty and collective subjugation. And the left is doing a fantastic job of, driving people into respective groups. I just saw one of the little clips from The View where they were chastising Republican women for voting against their own kind, as if you're a female, you're supposed to walk lockstep. Just the same as when the young lady, when I was speaking up at Northwestern University, asked me if I identified as Black. Well, those of y'all watching me right now, yeah, this is a pretty good permanent tan that I've had for 57 years. But the melatonin in my skin does not dictate the gray matter here. But yet there are people that believe it does. And it's that herd mentality that will destroy the United States of America. And we got to fight against that. Colby Jones, you believe Scott and DeSantis are your senator and governor? Well, I hate to tell you, I live in the state of Texas. So my senator, John Cornyn and Ted Cruz, and my governor is Greg Abbott. If you want to ask the people down in Florida, Mr. Jones, you ask them who their governor and their senator are. Monica Hathaway, I saw you in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Wonderful person, very smart. Hopefully, Monica, please, let my wife know that. She's the one with the MBA and the PhD. But it was a great time being up there at Rocky Mount, North Carolina, Wesleyan College, a great constitutional conservative institution, Christian constitutional conservative institution. And speaking of Rocky Mount, this past weekend I was up on Rocky Top for my Army ROTC reunion Hall of Fame dinner, induction dinner, and also just to be with those cadets. And it reinvigorates you when you see that next generation of young men and young women that are going to raise their right hand to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and bear true faith and allegiance to the same. And it was even better that Tennessee beat Kentucky. But it was great, to see a lot of the Kentucky fans that recognized me, and we took a lot of, great pictures and everything like that. And that's not what it's all about. I mean, we can be, cheering for two different teams, but at the end of the day, we're all Americans. That's what we need to understand. All right, let's see. Rita Jones, the UK police don't even carry guns, too late for us. I don't think we'll ever get to that point. And what you're seeing in the United Kingdom is that stabbings are astronomically high because bad people are going to find a way. Recently you just had a stabbing attack of an Islamic jihadist in Australia, Somalian background. He even had rigged up his car to, catch on fire and explode. And then he went out on a stabbing rampage, and they took him down because the police down there in Australia do have firearms. Remember what I said? An armed person is a citizen. An unarmed person is a subject. There was a reason why back in April of 1775 that the British landed and they were marching toward Concord, Massachusetts, because intelligence told them that that's where an armaments factory was operating. And think about those brave men who stepped out on Lexington Green to engage them, the greatest military power the world ever knew at that time. And they fired that shot that was heard around the world that enables us to be here today. America was established because we believed that we had a right to defend ourselves, a right to be armed, that right to be a citizen. Anyone that does not believe in that, they don't understand how this country got started. Okay, Patrick Kelly, wait, you're black? Yeah, I thought you were green, Army USMC green. I know, I'm a dark green Marine. That's what they say in the Marine Corps. Yeah, that's the great thing about the military. We only see one thing. We only see camouflage. That's it. We don't see anything else. We see a soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, and Coast Guardsman. And hopefully one day we get to that in the United States of America and stop with this herd mentality thing. Let's see. Who else we got here? Hillary Wolf, thank you so much. And God bless you as well. We love here in the crazy state of California. You know, eventually, I don't know, you got to figure it out. And I know you got Gavin Newsom coming in, and he's just as wild and woolly as, you know, Governor Moonbeam Brown. But again, one thing we can come together and understand, we're praying for you guys with those wildfires that are out there. And we just hope you can get, you know, past it. And we're just so hurt about the people that have lost their lives. But if there's one thing, please stop exporting your ideology. You know, if you want to really get in your mindset a metaphor to understand what is happening, I call it the locust effect, where the progressive socialists will be in one state or one area, one region, and they'll chew it up, they'll eat it up, they'll just completely destroy it. Remember, California used to be a red state. California once voted for Ronald Reagan to be its governor. Richard Nixon came out of California. And now look at it now. And so as people are coming out of California, and that's why, you know, we have this book, Hold Texas, Hold the Nation, Victory or Death. They're like locusts, and they go to new fertile grounds, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Texas, and they chew up those fertile grounds. Just the same as you see people that are coming down I-95 into North Carolina and South Carolina and Tennessee and into Georgia. What are they doing? They're trying to make those states which are successful like the place that they're fleeing from. That's pretty insane. And that's what we need to bring out. Welcome to Texas. Why are you here? And I think it's so important that a lot of these corporation leaders, like the head of Toyota America, he needs to talk to the employees, or she need to talk to the employees about, this is why we're leaving California and coming to Texas. And don't go down to Texas and vote like you did here in California and turn it into the mess, because then we'll have to leave Texas eventually too, because of tax and regulatory policies. That's what we talk about in the book, Hold Texas, Hold the Nation. You can get it on Amazon.com. And if I see you out and about, I'd be happy to put my John Hancock in there. All right, a couple more questions. Jeff Schenenberger, airborne all the way. We bleed the same. Yes, we do. Airborne. What is your opinion about the caravan, Ileana Altman? You know, I understand people want to have a better way of life and better opportunities, but there's a right way to come to the United States of America. This is not about squatters' rights. You just don't bust into someone's home and sit down in the living room, start eating their food, and then demanding that they give you food. That's not how it happens. So I would rather that, you know, these people try to enact change, which is one of those words, in their own countries, instead of coming here and trying to change ours. I believe that, you know, people should be able to legally immigrate into the United States of America. We can streamline that process. We need to get rid of these lottery systems and all of these other by chance things, and it should be merit-based. It's a privilege to call yourself an American, and we got to make sure that happens again. We cannot allow people to believe that we're not a sovereign nation that has borders to protect. We do. And I recently shared a story about a criminal illegal immigrant that was released, I believe, in New Jersey, and ended up out in the Midwest and killed 3 people. I believe it was Missouri. We can't have this. We have to think about the safety and the protection of the American people. Remember Kate Steinle? Remember Molly Tibbetts? and all the many others that have been killed by criminal and illegal immigrants in these United States of America. Last question. Texas dodged a bullet today. Amazon decided not to move to Texas. You know, it's very funny that you say that because a lot of people felt the exact same way. They did not want another major leftist corporation run by Jeff Bezos to come to a place like Texas and bring people that don't understand the nature of Texas. You know, folks need to understand why they're moving to a place like this, or like I say, or Georgia or Florida, or where have you. And we're not doing a good job of, getting people to understand the history, to assimilate, instead of, being like Lot's wife and looking back on Sodom and Gomorrah and turning into a pillar of salt. All right, last question. Penny Cockrell, thank you for speaking out, sir. We greatly appreciate what you do, and it's an honor. You know, the oath that I took to the Constitution and to serve this great nation doesn't end. Let me close with this little thought, and it's a quote that comes from Joseph Stalin. He said, "The person that casts the ballot means nothing, but the person that counts the ballot means everything." And think about that when you look at what is happening in Broward County, in Palm Beach County, and what happened in Arizona. It truly is about the person that is in charge of counting our ballots. And if we in these great United States of America become relegated to being some third world country, if we do not have a trust in our electoral process, then we're looking at the collapse of the longest running constitutional republic that the world has ever known. And it is all about one single thing. Some people just want power. They want control. They want to rule. They don't want to govern. And we need to understand the difference between the two. God bless you all. Happy Thanksgiving. And just know that with all the problems that we have with people like a Brenda Snipes, we still live in the best nation that the world has ever known. The place we call home, the United States of America. God bless you all. Have a great night.